Okay, I'm finally really getting to the battery versus solar versus diesel analysis, and I think there'll be some, I hope you think, maybe not, but I hope you think there's going to be some interesting implications about all of this. So in this video, I'm going to introduce kind of how the solar versus diesel part of the analysis works, arguably the easier part, but still interesting. And I'm going to show you that something really, really important is the cost of the solar modules. Let's define what a module is. Then I'm going to go through, well, how do we get really current data on the modules? And I have probably I've probably done an earlier video on this, but we have this kind of module prices, and you know, in case you are like me and can't ever remember a module versus a cell and all that stuff, you know, I just got this from Wikipedia or something. Here's a cell, this is a module. That's what we're talking about, not an array, but that's the central piece of kind of a solar project. And these modules, if we look way back in 2010, it depends, this is from Rabobank, but they had 2,000 USD per kilowatt. I think this is in euros, but whatever. So in US it would have been even higher. And then we skip to 2015, and this is now, I put this in, I put it in cost per kilowatt. Okay, and we have 600 per kilowatt, or 6 per kilowatt for the modules, and then you take it all the way down to the most current level I have while I'm doing this, and it's all the way down to 341. And what I'm going to do is show you how to get this data from this thing called PV Insights. Okay, so I'm going to show you first how important it is and review some of the analysis, then show you just, you know, how to get the data. Well, that's the review of solar trends, I guess. And then I'm going to show you how to do this automatically. So if you want to, if you have the next month, notice I didn't have every single month in here. Okay, and here is the polysilicon cost per per kW, and the thin film cost per kW. The key measure, the solid this is, oh God, what is it? It's the, we just passed something. This is polysilicon price. Where does it say spot price? Is this per kilogram? Okay, so that's really the driver maybe of some of this. Okay, so that's the trends, and now what I'm going to do is then show you how to update this, which involves going to the internet, looking at that page I just looked at, and then we can do it a whole bunch of different ways, and I'm going to show you how to do it with Power BI or Excel, different ways, and I'm going to try to argue that this method I have pretty works, and then finally we're going to put this file into Power BI as an example of a simple little time series file to put into Power BI, okay? Not very sophisticated, the last thing. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to this file that I haven't finished, and I'm going to put it on the website. And this, for me, is, if I don't sound excited, well, that's wrong. I'm just kind of having some bad days. Now, I'm going to show you, here's what we're going to do. We're going to look at the cost of a diesel project, and for any of these kind of situations, the cost depends on the cost per kW, the fixed O&M, variable O&M, heat rate, fuel cost, and then these things plus all the interest rates. That's what I took you through last time. They all drive the carrying charge. Now when we put in the diesel project, just a minute, the big cost is the fuel cost. And we're going to have some sensitivity on how the solar project economics work with different fuel costs. Obviously, the higher the fuel cost, the better the solar. But what kind of price do you need, and what kind of overall analysis do you do? And then, so first we'll just say we have some load. And I'm going to start with this whole page that goes through different loads. We just said, here's our loads. Now, when I do the loads, I'm not showing you some of the details in this one. We could make our load go up and down kind of with solar. This is just loads for one single day. Or we could make it non-coincident with solar, meaning that the loads go down during the day. And when we do a levelized cost example, and then we can just put some other load pattern on. I'm not getting to storage yet, but if I want to show you that this key thing, Shift Control 7 and Control B, this savings depends on the loads. Okay, now once you have the diesel in, and let's just talk about load factor versus capacity factor. If you have a flat load, that means the load factor is 100%. If you have a changing load, the load factor isn't 100%. The maximum load is 10, but the average load is 6.4. Okay, and then what I did is said, okay, well, how much energy do we have per day, per year? And we can take our fuel cost per kilowatt hour. I'm not going to go through this too much because we did it so much in other videos. And then the variable cost and the fixed cost. And one of the key things here is really to grab the data from the scenario page. Control-Alt-C, and let's just color the inputs perhaps, and hopefully color the sheet. Okay, and then there we go. So those come from the scenario sheets, and we can put a high, best case or worst case carrying charge in here. All right, now the solar pattern also has a key effect. So once we have the cost for the diesel, the solar is kind of so much easier. We have a fixed cost and a variable cost. And this is the big deal. What happens if we lower the fixed costs? Okay. And I'm going to make a best case carrying charge versus a worst case carrying charge. Look at the difference. I'm focusing on this percent savings. Now, to get this percent savings, once you have the solar, you go through and see, okay, the carrying charge rate now you can see came from the red sheet. If I put a best case, we get a dramatically different carrying charge. Now, for the solar, I said, well, okay, we can look at the pattern. Now we can size our solar differently. What we could do is just size it to the maximum load. Okay? That's one of the things we could do. And I'm on the best case. I'm going to put this up to the base case. And then I'm going to change this to just make it a flat load. Now notice how everything's changing when I do that. Now let me just try to explain a little what happened. Now, if I have this simple kind of flat load, then we go down here and we see, well, how much energy do I need from the total? That's our base diesel. Now I could get, with this kind of really good capacity factor, now it's a daily capacity factor and it can be argued about this, and we can put in a different lower capacity factor maybe. Oops, I gotta fix that. Don't worry about that. I'm not gonna worry about that right now. It's good, I see. Now, then we can say, okay, well, if we have this kind of capacity factor, then this is the amount of energy we get, that capacity factor per year, okay. Per day, it would be, I should have done this, it's the amount of capacity times the capacity factor times 24, okay. And then we can say, well, how much diesel do we still have to use? We subtract the amount of load we have from the solar. Now, here's what we're really doing in this case. When the solar cost, when the total cost per kilowatt hour, which is really, really low in this case, I guess because I have a really low capital cost, when the solar cost is less not than the total cost, but when it's less than the variable cost, the variable O&M, and most importantly, the fuel cost. And the fuel cost, that's why I did that whole separate video on diesel costs. And I put a different kind of, so you can change the diesel cost and then reset it to this diesel amount that we got from the futures analysis. So I hope you're seeing how this kind of analysis, it puts things together. Now we're using all the concepts from levelized cost analysis, but I think it's a lot better. Once we get all of this done, then we can do our storage analysis, which is going to involve just a little bit of preview of this. It's going to involve keeping a balance of how much storage, and we can only store things when we have X surplus solar, so we're going to have to put some more solar in. Okay, but this video is really about this variable. It's about what happens if we increase, so we put flat load, base solar pattern, and we put the base diesel cost in here, and I put a base kind of carrying cost. And I guess the base carrying cost, it's pretty low, that base case that I have. That's okay, whatever. And then, so look at the savings. If I increase the cost, this is what the kind of EIA had, something above 2,000, we get 9%. If we go to these really low costs, which I'm going to show you, they're from kind of India and other things you see, then the cost maybe 800. Okay, then we're going from 16 to 2200. Now, if I switch it to a really bad kind of case, then if we have a really high cost, it's not even worth it to put solar in. And if we have a low cost, we can start to get a reasonable kind of savings. So it's actually more sensitive. And let's put how about a high interest rate in here. Okay, then it's 15%. So you can see we've got all the factors together. So let's look at this cost per kW. Let's just look at this a little bit. Now, so you go to a website, and I just want to talk for a minute about reading things into Excel from the internet. Now, you could do something here. I'm going to make a new spreadsheet, Control N, and then I'm going to go to Data. And after I go to Data, I did this in the last video, we go to getting from other sources from the web. And then if I do that, it gives me advanced, and the advanced doesn't really do much. I have to stop here because I got to make sure I'm going to do this. I'm going to leave this on, I think, right now. Luckily, my internet is working, and see how long it takes. And it takes a long time. And then it kind of tries to format things for you, and you read it in, and now it's taking even longer. And whoops, it put it in Power BI this time. I don't even care about that. I don't know what happened there. I don't want to ask. Okay. All right. Whatever. I don't think that's a good method. I think it's so much faster to just use the workbooks.open method. It's not faster necessarily, but it's so much more flexible. And this time, we just read this in a whole bunch of different times. And the last time I read it in was in April, and today it's June. Oof. Should have kind of kept one. I did one yesterday for May, but what the heck, okay? That doesn't really matter, does it? Okay, and so the first step is we're going to go to the base sheet, and we're going to do 3 things. Now, here's the kind of things. If we did this by hand, we'd read it in, and then I'd copy and paste the sheet name here. That means we have to have a function for the sheet name. And then once you have the sheet name, you can use the indirect function to get the polysilicon PV grade polysilicon or silicon price, and that's just using the match and index. And what that match does is say go and find the average price and look in the index, look in the column I. And then this says, well, okay, this time look in column F and get the polysilicon module, and this gives you the match. And then it says look in, use the match and indirect once again to get the average thin film and polysilicon, okay? And oh, here's the thin film, excuse me, and here's the... So let's, now to read it in, what you just do is essentially go to PV Insights. I'm afraid to really look at the macro. I haven't looked at it so long. It should be very simple. Okay, all we do is read the file, and then once we read it in, it puts it in a new spreadsheet, and then we maintain the date and the time. It's the only little thing we have. And then we copy it, move it. It should say move here. Okay, excuse me. I think I'm going to put it to move. Okay, I hope that doesn't mess me up. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is just click on this, and then what it's going to do, it's going to go and make a new sheet for us. Okay, and there it's contacting the server. I'm leaving it in. My internet is horrible. Okay, and then it just copies it. It moves it without copying and pasting and getting rid of all the advertisements. Leaves everything in, because if you use that match and index and indirect, it all works. And then it put it over here and named it using the current date. Okay. Now once we have that date in here, then what we have to do, if we did this manually, I would have to copy and paste this column over here, and then paste it special as no, just paste it, and then paste this new sheet number from this one over here, because now that gives me a sheet name. Now there are a couple of functions that find the maximum number of sheets in the file and the sheet name, and those are important. Now then I just made a little copy paste macro essentially to just add it in. Now if I just have to tell you, you try to do this kind of thing in Power BI, and there's no way. There's no way. You could do it manually and all that. Basically, that was the thing I just showed you before. And then I put the thing here, I think. Just a minute. Okay. Uh-oh. Okay. Okay, I had a little error here. Notice I speak a little more quietly after I explain my error. Now, I redid the dates here, just with the date function. And then we see what's happened to polysilicon. Kind of, it was up here in 2015, it was 19, and then it's gone down to 13. And this is what's so very interesting. The cost of modules is keep going down. And this percent versus 2015 is dramatic. Now, if we look at the I did a little collecting of our solar prices from different sources. I kind of put some of these in euros. I did this in another file. I just got a recent one, which in Africa they said it was 1,300 USD, which is kind of high. All right, and then here's what Lazard said it was back in 2014. So if the module drives everything, which I know you have to add in all these other costs, and of course the inverter and everything else. But if this went down by, if the low case is only, what's our percent reduction? Oh my gosh! And this is even probably understating it, because those costs are probably more than that. So we've only got 54% of the cost. So if we multiply this by 0.54, I know we can't really do that. We get all the way down to 800. And okay, maybe that's too much, but maybe it's not even too much. All right, that's the dramatic kind of change in solar, and I don't know how to keep track of this other than by kind of going through that day by day thing. Okay, that's the key thing. Now, let's do the last thing. Now I'm saving the file. Now, if I bring this into Power BI, I'm just going to tell you quickly what happens. Did I forget to tell you something? Well, there was a tiny little bit of an issue with functions, by the way. Sometimes I shouldn't really tell you this. When I put the number of sheets in and the sheet name function in here, you can look at the sheet name function occasionally, and this is a function down here. It's I have to do a match partial, because you write a function that just gets the partial name instead of the whole name. Okay, and this gets the name of to get the average row over here. We did a match index and indirect. Okay, enough of that. Now okay, so the last thing is just to take it into Power BI. And if you, my son gave me this thing and said you could do all this stuff in Power BI, and he was right, and this is embarrassing. But when I read in the NAs, it didn't work very well at all. And then when I just copied this over and just kind of manually read them, now of course, if you have this up, and I think you'd almost have to transpose the dates. You don't want the dates at the top. You want it formatted like this, I think, generally. And if you want to get rid of the NAs, okay? I'm just really a novice at this stuff, so I shouldn't really be making a video about it. But if we then go to our file, and this file, it's good I'm showing you this. I guess this is in electricity, and it's in renewable energy, and it's in the battery section. That's where you can find all of this. I'm sorry, that's where the solar and battery stuff is. That was embarrassing. The file we're just looking at is just a regular kind of database and data retrieval file, because I use this to show how to do something really kind of simple. And then I put A here so we could get it right away. Now let's just load this one first. And if we load this one, it kind of works. Let's just do a few things quickly. Okay, and my son said, first thing you should do is just get the table, just see what you have. So put the date here, and then oops, I put it in a different place, and then we can put the silicon prices here, and I don't want to show the quarter. Maybe I just want to show the year. Okay, so that's kind of cool. All right, and then we can, I'm sure here, just show the average. All right, so you can kind of see what's happened to the average by year. That's kind of nice, isn't it? And then if I want it to be the quarter, and I don't know, I still want to show the month and the day. And now let's get this time let's just get a line chart, and let's put the date on the bottom, and let's put the silicon. Is that, and then we have to, just a minute. Okay, sorry for the interruption. I think I'm going to do this again, because we had to work a little bit with the dates. So this is an extra little thing. Okay, I'm putting this over here. I'm dragging the date, and now I'm dragging, this should have been silicon. Let's drag polysilicon over to here. Okay, and then we get this funny looking date thing. And then if you go down here and put just date instead of date hierarchy, and then you go and put the average, it kind of gives you the average, and then you can fiddle around and get the maximum, minimum, and all that stuff. I don't know why it didn't put, there it kind of shows you the price, and then we can throw in the silicon price. No, I didn't want to do that. Let me get rid of that. Purposely I did that. Let's throw in the thin film price and do the same thing and get the average, and that kind of is the same graph, so it didn't really do much more than we did already very quickly, but whatever, that's the time series. And a kind of nice thing here perhaps is you might want to make a scatter plot. Okay, so let's just make a scatter plot, and this time, oops, let's compare the silicon price perhaps on the x-axis. I hope that puts it to the polysilicon price, and then we have to put the date in, because then it gives you the different dates, and I think we better put average like we always do here. Okay, and then once you have that, okay, where is all my on the date filter, let's do the same thing. Let's just put the date in, and then it gives you all the little scatter plots. So that's really pretty good, isn't it? We could have made it just about as fast in Excel, I think, because you just click off of the x-axis. So it's pretty good, and you can fill in the point. And the nice kind of thing that is a little tricky with Excel, now of course I made a macro to really do this, is you can not color by category, but put a category label in, and it shows you which of all the dates are. And then if you want to make a third one, you can make the size of the bubble. So it's really, I gotta say that's kind of good. Okay, so enough of that. And that was our update solar costs.